Hopkins, a team that started out 4-0 on the season, have dropped their last 3. Both these teams coming off overtime losses a week ago. Virginia at home last week at Clockner Stadium against Notre Dame. As these two teams meeting for the 91st time, taking center stage this afternoon at Homewood Field. Craig Medeiros, Jason Murphy at the face-off X. Check that, Hunter Moreland at the face-off X. He'll be sharing the duties with Medeiros. And a battle for it right from the start, won by Virginia. And one thing we'll notice here this afternoon, Ryan, that up-tempo offense.
Yeah, and a lot of it's keyed by number 22, Conrad. You're gonna see him all over the field today on wings, playing defense, keying their transition from defense to offense. Keep an eye on him.
A Virginia team that's offense ranks 3rd in the nation at over 15 a game. The senior Zed Williams. And our first look in the midfield at Ryan Lukovic, who gets a quick strike on Cage. Virginia 5-3 on the season, still winless in the ACC. Wraparound shot put together by the talented freshman in Michael Krause. And Ryan, we're already seeing this Virginia attack quickly at work.
Yeah, Virginia's got Moreland stuck. They've got numbers here and early offense off the substitution game.
A.J. Fish checking in, low-angled shot, and it's Ryan Conrad getting the Cavaliers on the board.
Opportunistic goal here by Conrad. They catch Hopkins in the substitution game. You'll see this 6-on-5. Look at that little pump fake. That's all the space Conrad needs in order to pull the trigger and let one go.
Conrad, his 11th goal of the season. You check out the scouting report on him, a Renaissance man, always has that green light for head coach Lars Tiffany, and he's got Virginia with the early advantage. Hunter Moreland as Hopkins able to win that face-off. Moreland finally made his debut. He's been dealing with injuries all season long, but he is a valuable player at the X for Dave Petromalo, especially sharing duties with Medeiros. And we saw that last week in the matchup against Syracuse and Ben Williams.
Yeah, he was really the key to trigger that comeback. You can see that he's still kind of getting his game reps there. Virginia was able to trap him defensively on that last possession.
John Crowley, number 44, the senior mid, also does some attack duties as well. As Shaq Stanwyck behind the cage. As Ryan, we take a look at the keys for Hopkins this afternoon.
Yeah, the first thing that they got to do is in transition, they can't be afraid to run. You've got to run against a runner, and then defensively, you need to throw different looks at Virginia, specifically in the 6-on-6. Play some zone, go man-to-man, try to keep them guessing so they can't just get that pace going like they want.
Ground ball recovered by Virginia. They lead the country in that category at 49 a game. And the takeaway picked up in the stick by Cody Razowitz.
What's so key for them leading the country in ground balls is they're going to play a chaotic style, so that if they're able to generate extra possessions through those 50-50 ground balls, that completely plays into their favor from a stylistic perspective.
Stanwyck guarded by the 5th-year senior and Tanner Scales, number 6 for Virginia. Hopkins last week we saw struggle offensively, at one point go 0 for 20 on the shots on goal, and a long run as Griffin Thompson in the cage with a nice save. The freshman who made his first career start a week ago against Notre Dame. There were times he looked brilliant, and then there were other times he looked inexperienced.
Yeah, Tinney kind of bailed him out on that. That was a really low-angle shot, an easy one for the goalkeeper as long as he stands his ground. That's one of those confidence builders for a goalie. And offensively, don't take that because you don't want the goalie to get in any sort of rhythm.
Stanwyck circles the crease, angled back. A Hopkins offense that was certainly stagnant through most of the game against Syracuse last week. As that shot hits off the pipe, ricochets right into the crease, and a clearing opportunity here for Virginia.
Good execution by Radzewicz, what's called an S dodge. You go underneath and then work your way back top side to increase your angle. Executed that to perfection there to generate a quality look.
Dax Aiken leads the nation for freshman midfielders with 20 goals on the season. Part of a talented, youthful offensive core for Lars Tiffany. The feed over the stick of Kraus and a turnover that'll give it back to Hopkins.
Expect to see a lot of that today in terms of turnovers from Virginia. They are not afraid to play risk-free lacrosse.
Hopkins defense has already forced 2 turnovers. Quick angle shot that just gets past the stick of Griffin Thompson off the sophomore Kyle Barr.
Excuse me, not risk-free lacrosse, risky lacrosse. They're going to take lots of chances. My apologies there.
Alex Concannon, the sophomore to the point.
Oh, good handle.
Kieran Eisler, shot on the run. As it will stay with Hopkins, we will see this talented and deep midfield unit that Dave Petromalo uses at least 9 guys, making it much more difficult for opposing teams to scout with those number of options in the midfield. Concannon.
Conversely, it's also tough for these players sometimes to get into a rhythm because they go so deep.
Here's Eisler on the shot, and a nice save in the chest by Thompson, and the quick clearing opportunity with numbers the other way. Shot back to the cage at Virginia, striking once again. Dave Smith, the sophomore midfielder, giving the Cavaliers a 2-0 advantage.
It doesn't always have to be a clean break for Virginia to run. Let's go back to the save. Anytime a goalie makes a save, that's basically a turnover. And then you can see in transition, Smith just attacks aggressively. That's what you're going to see when offensive midfielders are caught back in transition. Virginia wants to run before Hopkins is able to set up defensively. That is their style of play, pretty much to a T there, Brick.
That was one of the keys that Lars Tiffany spoke to us about this week, was the clearing game that could lead to transition, and obviously now we've seen it end up in a scoring opportunity for Virginia, who has the 2-0 advantage. Face-off won by the Cavaliers.
Here they go.
An up-tempo style that has seen this season for Virginia have 5 one-goal games. In fact, their 3 losses all coming by 1 goal.
Hopkins did not shoot particularly well against Syracuse, and kind of early signs are not that positive. A couple low-angle shots, and then Thompson was able to catch and trigger a break immediately. Hopkins has got to be more selective in their shots.
Kraus, number 2, the freshman, the points leader for Virginia with 39 on the season. Here's Conrad.
You can see they've got Murphy and Moreland, the 2 face-off men, stuck out. Virginia's playing 5-on-5 lacrosse, and they're able to cash in yet again.
Lukovic finding Joe French, and just like that, in the blink of an eye, Virginia has a 3-0 advantage, and Johns Hopkins wants to take a timeout. That last goal by Ryan Lukovic makes it now 38 straight games for the senior with a point. As Virginia, who has started off 3 of 5 to begin this game, keys-wise, what are you looking for, Ryan?
Yeah, Virginia just needs to absolutely establish their pace. Per lacrosse and Linux.com. They're number 2 in the country. Meanwhile, Hopkins is number 43. They need to get the game going in their way. And then second of all, they're starting a freshman in Cage. He needs to come up with a few saves to key transition like he did and thwart Hopkins in the 6-on-6.
Lars Tiffany making mention of the confidence that Thompson displayed, certainly in that 4th quarter and in overtime against Notre Dame, a top 5 team, making his first career start against, as Hopkins gets it in the box and works their offense. Coming out of this timeout, Ryan, what does Hopkins' offense have to do to get back into this game?
Well, they've got to generate a quality shot, as they are able to barely there. Number 1, they've got to clear the ball successfully, which is always an adventure with Virginia's 9- and 10-man ride. And then in terms of going into the flow of their offense, they need to get to the middle more frequently. Too many times there's low-angle shots going down the alley and coming up from behind. Generate quality shots in the middle of the field.
Here's Radzewicz being pushed from behind by Matt Jama.
Right there, you'd love to see Marr kind of turn the corner and try to be more aggressive, dodging against Conrad.
Graduates angled to the left of the cage, goal line extended in front. Thompson, as the ground ball recovered by Marr, spots up and fires, and the sophomore gets the Blue Jays on the board.
This has got to be literal and figurative music to Hopkins' ears. Marr, in terms of in a little bit of a shooting slump, he's able to let that baby fly, drops his hands. You see Thompson kind of resetting himself in cage, but Marr drops those hands, changes planes, goes low to high. Beautiful execution. They need to see him get cooking a little bit in terms of to get their offense triggered. 9th goal of the season for Marr, the 5'10" sophomore out of Clifton Park, New York, getting Hopkins on the board. As it's back to the face-off X between Moreland and Murphy. We'll be seeing Luke Brugel as well. Murphy a little bit banged up, Lars Tiffany telling us before the game, so you'll see a dual role at the face-off X. That's won again by Virginia. And here you see Murphy and Moreland both on the field, so let's see how the teams decide to counter, and a quick shot by Krause.
Make that now 22 goals on the season for the freshman Krause in Virginia. In a matter of moments, Ryan answers, and it's back to a 3-goal advantage.
You cannot relax when Virginia has the ball offensively. Here you see the coordinated movement off ball. Krause is able to get right in front of the cage. Good look by Williams there, and Krause continues his incredible freshman season.
And this is where a bulk of the offense comes from for Virginia, with the freshmen now putting the total of 45 goals on the season for this Virginia team, accounting for over 36% on the season. And for Krause, he now moves into second among all freshmen in the country, as Virginia continues their red-hot shooting, 4 of 6 to begin this game. Now face-off violation that'll give Hopkins possession, looking to answer. Joel Tinney, the junior midfielder. Hopkins, a team that started off the year 4-0, had quality wins against Loyola in overtime here at Homewood Field. Then they went on the road, beat the defending national champs in North Carolina, and then all of a sudden they went to your alma mater, Ryan, against Princeton, and in words of Dave Petramala, put up a stinker, and they've not been able to recover since. Chase to the end line, and it will stay with Hopkins. Nice hustle on the far end by Marr to keep it with the Blue Jays.
Oh, in the restart there, great opportunity for Hopkins. Virginia had 2 players out. The referee kind of held up play because I think there was 2 balls. Put one down and let's go.
Thompson with already 3 saves in this game. The freshman making his second career start. Shot right to Thompson, now number 4 for him, off the stick of Joe Frazier. Patrick Frazier, I should say, and then it's a turnover. Nick Fields, the talented defender for Hopkins, gives it right back to Frazier. Left-handed shot finds the back of the net. Hopkins able to answer on Frazier's 7th goal of the season.
Two looks by Frazier, both right in the middle of the field. The first one Thompson's able to stop. This one Frazier's able to get past, but this is exactly what Hopkins needs. More shots right in front of the cage, so you're shooting at a full 6x6. Frazier was on fire early in the year. He's in a little bit of a slump, like most of the team offensively, so don't mean to repeat myself there, but this is exactly what you need to see. Marr, Frazier, their shooters get hot. Shoot till you get hot, and when you get hot, keep shooting.
Dave Petramala saying he's looking for that alpha male in the midfield unit, potentially with Patrick Frazier coming up with the goal. And another face-off taken away by Ryan Conrad and Virginia. Now that makes it 4 for the Cavaliers in this opening quarter.
Early offense by Virginia. The long pole and their face-off man are both staying out there.
Jack Rapine marking Kraus. That'll be a great matchup to look out for throughout this game.
Hopkins quickly transitions into a zone defense, partially, I think, to protect Moreland.
Conrad switches the hands, bounce shot will stay with Virginia.
Off your screen, Murphy substitutes out. Now they get Aiken in the game. Here he is with the ball.
This is a defense by Hopkins that has held 6 opponents so far to under 9 goals, while Virginia's offense has been able to score double digits in every game this season.
So this is exactly what we talked about in the opener. Hopkins mixing things up defensively, protecting Moreland. Let's see if Virginia's able to execute their zone offense.
Conrad off the pick, draws the slide.
Lukovic went the wrong way there.
Back to Kraus, trying to go 5-hole. And Gerald Logan, the graduate transfer out of Michigan, comes up with the stop for Hopkins. On the clear, the other end. Numbers. Open shot. Finds the back of the cage. And Johns Hopkins, off the goal by the freshman Forey Smith, has answered and is back within 1.
Brick, you gotta run against a runner. Here is the transition counterpunch we talked about. Spencer in transition. The key here is Smith, that little cut, that little C curl towards the ball. He's able to greatly increase his angle, open up a ton of shooting options, and bury it high to low on Thompson.
Back-to-back goals for Hopkins. Makes it a 4-3 game here with under 5 minutes to go in this first quarter. As Moreland, along with Murphy, back in the face-off X. Let's not forget, Hopkins at one point was ranked 3rd in the country.
Say what you will about Virginia games, but they're entertaining, right? I mean, back and forth, up 3, now it's a 1-goal game, and here we go.
Here's Moreland on the trail check, loses possession as it falls into the crease. Taken away by Thompson on the clear here for Virginia. These two teams who have met every year since 1948. 4 of the last 5 meetings have ended up in overtime. So you're expecting a close one. High shot that goes for Virginia. Lukovic strikes and answers for the Cavaliers.
No sleep in Charlottesville. Right off the transition, Lukovic a little split and then roll back. He gets to the middle. He's able to beat Carlini to be able to get his hands free. You see Carlini slip on that rollback. Fields is a little late for the help, doesn't want to leave Williams. And he's having a huge year, Brick.
Ryan Lukovic, the senior, who after his college career wants to become a Navy SEAL, one of the 3 Virginia captains this year, as Lukovic continues his streak, 38 straight games with a point, and more importantly, Virginia now on top 5-3.
Yeah, it said as a bio right there, attack, but one of the things that's really been a welcome surprise is the coaching staff asks him to move to midfield. He buys in, and you can see the success he's having individually and them having as a team. Kudos to him for accepting that new role, especially as a senior.
His ability, that leadership, allowing Kraus to be the new quarterback. Shot and an answer on the other end by Johns Hopkins as Tinning answers for the Blue Jays, and all of a sudden we're back to a 1-goal game.
Fuck yeah.
This is the type of game you thought Tinney could explode in, because there's going to be a lot of these types of plays. A 50-50 ground ball, which leads right into the break. No one stops him. You got to stop the ball. And he goes right down Thompson and just buries it high to low. You got to stop ball there, especially with Tinney coming right at you.
This Hopkins offense, which started just 1 of 10, has now come up with 3 straight goals on their end. Tinney his 10th. The Canadian sharpshooter, part of this top midfield line, as Virginia off the face-off win. Lost the handle, the trail check. Unsettled play, Numbers. High low, beautiful save by Logan. In the crease was Virginia, and a clear coming up for Hopkins.
What a save by Logan there.
We knew this was going to be a high, intense matchup right from the opening faceoff, and so far it has not disappointed.
Yeah, left side of your screen, you see Logan stay with it, stick on stick. The big fake, and then the shot, the old kick save, and go down with the head of the stick. Great shot by Logan there, staying big.
What do you make of Hopkins after the early deficit, down 3-0 to Virginia, to be able to climb back into this game?
Well, Virginia's going to give you those opportunities, so you need to seize them. You got to stay aggressive. You got to stay confident. You can't go in the shell. You got to keep going at them.
Razowitz.
Smook's got to fade or get out of the way so Williams can turn the corner there.
High angle shot, Scott Hooper with the great defensive pressure up front. Here's Shaq Stanwyck, the junior. O-line extended, marked by Scales. Has to bring it out on a reset now for Hopkins. Crawley, shot high.
I'd go right back to Williams here. He was able to gain an advantage last time.
Williams, the highly touted freshman, the short stick, and that one falls in front of Thompson. Able to corral it, does the freshman. And on a clearing attempt for Virginia, what do you make of his performance so far in cage for Thompson?
Hit or miss. You know, there's been a few that he's come up with. You'd like to have him save it cleanly. It's actually hit the plastic and ricocheted off. If he saves that, they're able to keep some transition. But he's come up with stops he's supposed to make thus far.
Ed Williams, the senior attacker, marked by Fields. And the forced turnover gives it back to Hopkins as we approach the final 90 seconds of this first quarter.
They got numbers.
The fifth turnover leading to a quick strike, and Thompson there at the knees for the save. The two areas that Lars Tiffany was looking at this week was goalie and was clearing. So far, both have been able to be above average. As Lukovic, angle back to the cage, sends it back. Kraus, one of 5 different goal scorers in this first quarter for Virginia.
I feel like Aiken's barely gotten the game. Here he comes trotting on after Conrad substitutes.
Lukovic on the cut, finds an open Williams. Nice defense by Fields in this zone matchup that Dave Petramala talked to us about, potentially trying to slow down Virginia. Aiken lost the handle of him, the cause turnover, quickly taken away. Numbers for Hopkins.
A great on-ball defense there by Kelch. Hopkins has got some time to play with here, but they got to go fast. About 10 seconds remaining.
Dismute gives it off to Stanwyck. Final 7 seconds, and the errant pass leads to a turnover. Virginia will hold it for the last shot in the closing seconds. Launch one that just nearly went in off to the left of Logan. And the first quarter comes to a close. Virginia and Hopkins in an epic ACC Big Ten clash that's lived up to the billing, with Virginia in front by 1. And he made the point of saying we have to, as a team, ignore the scoreboard and just focus on dealing with the external pressure. And they've got the 5-4 advantage as we get started for the second quarter. Medeiros at the face-off X for Hopkins. Murphy here for Virginia. And it's Medeiros for the moment. And Hopkins able to control the opening face-off to start off this second quarter.
And not surprised to see both teams have to go a little bit in their depth chart. You know, at the face-off personnel, based off the weather today, it is seasonably warm, and just based off the sheer volume of face-offs we're going to see with all these goals.
Hopkins has been able to do a good job in countering Virginia's strike in terms of ground balls. Both teams with 10 in that first quarter. Tinney, who had a goal in that first quarter for Hopkins. Best known for his hidden ball trick against Navy in the season opener. Shown numerous times on SportsCenter. Here's a shot by Radzowitz that goes high over the crossbar. And a quick reset by Dismuke. Radzowitz striking hard, low angle save once again by Thompson. And the ground ball by Scales, and quickly in transition.
Okay, here we go.
Here comes Virginia, that up-tempo offense. Strike to Krause, who quickly scores on the other end for Virginia. The freshman's second, and the Cavaliers up by 2.
Krause shows his versatility here with his right hand. But what's remarkable here about this individual effort is his ability to get topside and run through this check. So instead of taking that low angle shot, you can see him step up field, run through that check by Fields, increase his angle before burying it on Logan.
Krause, who has had 4 straight games with at least 6 points, highlighted by last week's performance against Notre Dame, a career-high 5 goals. His second tally this afternoon to make it a 6-4 Virginia lead. Medeiros trying to win his second straight faceoff, and Hopkins does so. As Stanwyck on the far side of the field, the junior.
Good pressure there by Ambrosino.
Lost his stick to Dismuke, and Ambrosino, the sophomore, able to come up with the cause turnover.
This is where you got to get worried if you're Hopkins. You've got Aiken and Vallis is stuck on defensively.
Will McNamara checking in for the midfield line as Aiken goes high and gets a past Logan. And Virginia, just like they started off this game, back-to-back goals to extend the lead to 3.
Virginia plays Aiken on defense so that he can do quick strike offense once they get the ball. You see just a little split dodge there, nothing crazy, and then he just lets it fly. High to high, Logan, maybe that's one you come up with, but Aiken, that's that defense to offense, the two-way midfielders that Virginia builds. That is their system to a T.
His 21st goal of the season leads all freshman midfielders in the nation in that category. And Virginia using that up-tempo offense to come up with 2 goals in 47 seconds after Hopkins was able to cut it down to a 1-goal deficit. Murphy with the loose ground ball, momentarily hit from behind. And they're going to call, let's see, a push against Hopkins that'll give Virginia possession. Vukovic, who draws the short stick in Daniel Jones.
First time we get a chance to see Emery here. We'll see a lot of Virginia's first line midfield and a lot of their short stick defensive midfielders. Tough to get that second line on the field based off the way they play.
Lars Tiffany telling us this week he's had players come in to say, hey, can I just play defense to get into the game? Mike DeMario, the bounce shot misses high, as it will stay with Virginia. DeMario, who last year came up with the overtime winner against Hopkins at Klockner Stadium. A remarkable rivalry in the fact that 4 of the last 5 have ended up in overtime between Virginia and Hopkins. The sharpshooter comes up with another tally, make that now an 8-4 advantage, and a 3-0 run for Virginia to begin this second quarter.
DeMario showing his range here. You see the dodge by Emery down the side. He's able to generate that slide, the throwback, and DeMario. Sometimes you just got to let the dragon breathe. Holy cow, he brings that from a solid 15-yard plus. And there goes Logan. Yeah, DeMario waving off Logan. Hopkins has gone to the backup turn ball.
And all of a sudden, Virginia has built up their largest lead at a 4-goal advantage, and already Dave Petromala making a change in the cage. Brock Turnbaugh, the junior out of Phoenix, Maryland, coming in for Logan. And if you're a Hopkins fan, you're starting to see a similar theme as to that of against Princeton, where he gave up 18 goals. Not to say that that may happen, may not happen, but certainly Dave Petromala wants to avoid any type of confusion with Logan coming out and Turnbaugh coming back into the cage.
Well, and he's gone to Turnbaugh previously for a spark, and certainly it seems like that's what he's looking for here. I mean, look, when Virginia plays games, they're going to be high scoring. You got to have thick skin. You see the same thing with Thompson in cage. You just got to bounce back. We'll see if Turnbaugh, what he's able to generate, if he's able to be a spark for Hopkins. But those were a couple that were pretty long range. You certainly had some steam on them, to say the least. But you'd like to see Logan kind of see those.
Crowley on the wing, sends it off to Marr. That one partially deflected off the stick of Hooper as he gets the ground ball. And just like that in transition, that up-tempo offense as Jama leading the charge for the Cavaliers.
Coach Kerwin, you can see him yelling wholesale, 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 so the whole rope unit goes off. They'll get a full complement of offensive midfielders. I think that was a smart strategic move given the fact that Hopkins was able to get their short sticks on Bruno and Jones.
Alon Murray along with A.J. Fish checking in for Virginia as Murray sends it off. Krause already 2 goals to his credit. Bouncer that will stay with Virginia. When you take a look at the body of work by Michael Krause, what intangibles stand out to you?
Well, I think what Coach Tiffany talked about was just overall maturity, his emotional toughness, his mental toughness.
Fish hit hard on the shot attempt. Ground ball picked up by Fish, met by a double team, and Lars Tiffany has seen enough. He wants to call a timeout here with 9:31 left to go in this second quarter. John Brickley, Ryan Boyle back with you. Homewood Field, where Virginia on a 3-0 run has built up their largest lead of the game, up 8-4 on Johns Hopkins. And one of the many themes, Ryan, this year has been who wants to be number one. Rutgers is number one right now, but in trouble against Delaware. But look at the depth of the Big Ten with 4 teams in the top 10.
4 in the top 10 and 3 undefeated. Kind of a blessing and a curse if you're Hopkins, right? You go in to face murder's row in terms of this schedule. Conversely, you get a win or two, and boom, you got a top 5 win. It's still very early this season. This is why, I think that they smartly and strategically joined the Big Ten Conference, and I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit at halftime with their athletic director. But this is, they needed a nice non-conference win just to build confidence heading into that.
First 3 opponents to start off that Big Ten schedule. None of them have a blemish on the record as of right now. Rutgers, Ohio State, and Penn State.
Hopkins goes into a zone, and it is unsuccessful as they're able to find DeMario inside. On a little flash, Carlini has got to be tighter.
His second goal, DeMario, of the day. 9-4 now, Virginia with the advantage as you make that 24 goals on the season for the junior attackman.
You'll see here Carlini inside. DeMario cuts in. Carlini's looking around. He looks the wrong way, and that's all the space DeMario needs. Tough with a short stick inside. This is what's called a ball side cutter zone, Brick, and that player on the inside is supposed to cover anybody that's cutting on the ball side. Typically, you see a long pole so you get a little bit more coverage in the crease. Carlini, tough ask there as a short stick.
How much of an advantage do you get if you're Virginia? Rukovic, having been the quarterback of this offense for now 3 years, gives that role off to Kraus, but in essence you have two quarterbacks leading the way offensively.
Well, just more playmakers.
And just like that, Dox Aiken adding to the scoring total, and Virginia is pulling away in this second quarter, making 5 unanswered for the Cavaliers. Off the last goal by the freshman Aiken, a 10-4 advantage, and Dave Petramala wants to take a timeout. Virginia, Ryan, with 2 goals in a matter of 11 seconds.
You see Aiken, he just doesn't need a lot of space to get those hands free. I mean, this is on a long pole. That's pretty good defense there by Spencer. I mean, this freshman is so impressive.
Dox Aiken, a freshman out of Villanova, Pennsylvania, listed as the #1 midfielder in the country by Inside Lacrosse. And you talk about a guy that made his presence felt right off the start. 5 of the first 6 games, registered a hat trick.
Combine him with Kraus, right, as the Virginia coaching staff. You got to be pretty pumped about life, huh?
Looking at Virginia long term then, Ryan, what are the prospects for this team? If all your playmakers are sizable freshmen.
Yeah, the future is bright. Two things on that. Number one, obviously you have them for 4 years, but as important is if you're implementing this system and this style, you're able to make that investment in those players that are going to change the entire culture of your program over their 4-year span. That's nothing to take away from any of the seniors right now, but you look at like Williams, for example, right? He's gone after this year, whereas Kraus, once he buys in, once he learns the system, now there's a huge trickle-down effect moving forward because he's not relearning something for the first time, whereas Williams had to make a huge drastic transition from what they've done in the past.
And Lars Tiffany made mention of it this week, that he built the philosophy of up-tempo-ness right from the start, did the skill set sessions for an hour. Some of the guys came away saying that was the hardest hour of lacrosse I've ever had in my life. But he said those practice schedules built in long-term, because you get to this point in the season, you get to the teeth of the schedule, that's where the difference is.
Yeah, and this is where they've got to be a little bit more disciplined. You know, don't look at the scoreboard, as you said, but also recognize you have a 6-goal advantage. And this is the type of game that, you know, don't turn the dial. UVA has let countless teams back into it from here, so they're not going to stop running. So if you're Hopkins, good time out there. Just keep your composure, and then now you got to just punch back.
From a defensive standpoint, Hopkins D last week in the overtime loss to Syracuse gave up only 8 goals total. They've already given up 10 to a Virginia team that's on a 5-0 run over the last 430 plus. What adjustments did they have to make?
Well, you got to have some stops, and that's where you saw them pull Logan and put in Turnbull. They've got to create a little bit more on-ball pressure. Some of these shooters are able to just get their hands free and let it go.
There's a long pole, Nick Fields, the lone returning starter on the defensive unit for Johns Hopkins. As Wilkins is moved, number 9, the senior attacker, gives it off to Stanwyck.
And then the last thing to your question is you got to be a little bit more prepared. There's been some times in transition, and it seems like they've been surprised that Virginia's so aggressive.
Stanwyck draws contact, the flag does go up. And it'll be a man-up opportunity here for Hopkins on the delayed penalty.
Stanwyck's matched up on Conrad. You got to get the ball back there. He's got his stick in the air. He's waiting for it.
Stanwyck has struggled over his last 3 games, just 4 points, including 1 goal.
Here's the matchup, Brick. Got to get something out of this.
Conrad and Stanwyck behind cage. Draws the slide, leaving Morrow open for the shot in the goal.
Good recognition here by Hopkins offensively. They had Stanwyck matched up on Conrad. The patience, you can see the whole defense keying in on Stanwyck as he turns the corner. You saw the slide, and Stanwyck gets it to Marr, who's the step down is successful. Great to see him bouncing back, his second of the day, both from outside. They need him to shoot well. He could be the key to get them going offensively.
And Stanwyck credited with the assists, make that now 41 straight games with a point, 7th in the nation for Shaq Stanwyck. More importantly for Hopkins, it ends a 5-0 run for Virginia. 10-5 here at the 7:54 mark of this second quarter. And the question is here, Ryan, how much momentum can Hopkins build off of that goal as Moreland tries to win the faceoff, and it's Hopkins that controls. Numbers the other way. Tinney fires open loaded and gets the bounce shot, and Hopkins, just like that, with back-to-back strikes.
Moreland is able to make play, make it, take it, lacrosse. This is how you stop runs, and this is how you generate runs. First it was Virginia, now it's Hopkins off the face-off. Tinney playing aggressively, sensing the momentum is in their favor. Let's see if Hopkins now can keep this thing rolling, turn that little snowball into the proverbial avalanche.
Hopkins with a bounce back, 2 goals in 10 seconds to cut the deficit down to 4. And Dave Petramala this week making note, when you face Virginia, it starts at the X. If you can win the battle at the face-off, you put Virginia behind the 8 ball as Brugel able to win the face-off. And Virginia looking to answer this run by Hopkins.
Oh, he had Hooper.
That one missing to the left outside against Turnbaugh. In for Gerald Logan.
Virginia had both of, they double balled on the face-off, Brick, and then kept both of them out there, so you end up with Hooper, or excuse me, Connors backing up the cage. You know, something you always see, long pole midfielders backing up the cage on a shot. Just love it.
Aiken off the bench for Virginia.
So you'll see here to the left side of your screen, they've got Moreland trapped on defense. So Hopkins is going to lock and play 5-on-5. A lot of space out there.
Aiken trying to maneuver through a double team and does so. Turnbaugh the save. And the clear coming for Hopkins, who ranks 7th in clearing percentage at almost 92%.
He had Eisler right in front of him. Yeah, that's been a key this season, is cleaning that up. You know, last year that was definitely an area they struggled. Not surprisingly, the Hopkins coaching staff got that aspect of their game dialed in.
And the call going against Hopkins.
Of course, right on cue, as I compliment their clearing game, they get an infraction.
As you can tell, Dave Petramala furious with the officials. Turnovers have not been an issue throughout the season for Hopkins. However, today they've already committed 5 of them. Number 1 in the nation and just under 10 a game. And in terms of momentum, the last thing you want to do is make mental mistakes that give possession back to this high-tempo Virginia offense. Virginia started off this game on a 3-0 run. Hopkins was able to climb back to within 1. Then all of a sudden, Virginia just went off in the second quarter. A 5-0 run. Their largest lead was 10-4, and Hopkins has answered with back-to-back strikes. Fish, one-on-one with Jones. Zone offense. Check that defense here for Hopkins.
They were earlier. They've gone back to their man-and-man. You see Jones staying on that Fish matchup. So Hopkins mixing it up.
Mitch Gordon, number 37, behind cage. In front, the cutter, as Turnbaugh was there for the stop. Williams had a shot and an opportunity, but denied there by the junior.
The second straight save by Turnbaugh. Really encouraging sign there for Hopkins.
Turnbaugh now taking it towards midfield. Good ride here by Virginia. Flag is thrown on the stick check. So that'll go against Kraus And a 1-minute man-up opportunity here for Hopkins.
Yeah, Kraus trying to make that effort play. Always an adventure in terms of UVA riding. They've got both a 9-man and 10-man. Tough spot for Turnbull to get thrown into. Obviously, they practiced it all week, but then to get thrown in a game and then boom, now all these different rides that Virginia throws at you. Lucky to come out of that one alive.
And this is an advantage for Hopkins, 7th in the nation in extra man opportunities, converting nearly 53% on the season. Barr, he's already got 2 goals. As Discoop works it back up top, with 35 left up on the man-up opportunity.
Good pressure there on Stanwyck, not able to get his hands free.
Barr gives it off. Low angle shot by Crawley. That'll stay here with Hopkins with 22 left on the man up.
You can see the respect now at Scales. They want to go all the way out on Stanwyck so he can't read the defense.
Great passing. Radzowitz. Low angle. Barr the rebound. In front, open cage, unable, denied by Thompson. Off the stick of Discoop. Quick reset, in front. Radzowitz push from behind. 2 flags are thrown. And it will count as a man-up opportunity and a man-up goal. More importantly for Hopkins, to make it a 3-0 run for the Blue Jays. They're going to wipe away the push, but more importantly, Hopkins with the confidence boost to get them within 3, Ryan.
Great patience here by Radzowitz inside. You'll see off this feed by Stanwyck, Radzowitz's presence of mind to step in front of the cage to increase his angle. That forces Virginia, kind of forces their hand to push him. And you know that the biggest guy celebrating here is Dismuke, thanking Radzowitz for saving his butt. But just like that, Hopkins has crept right back into this game, cut it to 3.
Radzowitz, part of that second midfield unit. As Hopkins down by 3, 10-7.
That feed by Stanwyck, you could see why Virginia was pressing out whenever he got the ball. When he's got his head up and his hands free, he's going to find the open man.
Moreland back at the X, won by Murphy for Virginia. And then for your Virginia on this offensive possession, what has to be key? Are you striking early or do you take time on this possession?
Well, you're reading what the defense gives you. So again, now they've got Moreland stuck out there on defensively. You can see the long pole, number 25, Hooper. So they're going to read what Hopkins does defensively and react accordingly.
Aiken off the roll dodge, gives it off to DeMario. 2 goals for the junior.
Kind of surprised they haven't tried to use Hooper in a 2-man game.
Shot to the left off the stick of Kraus will stay with Virginia.
So watch now, Virginia should have a quick advantage in a 6-on-5 as Moreland subs out for Carlini. Good hustle by both Moreland and Carlini to eliminate that slight advantage.
Matt Emery with possession on the far side. As Virginia looking to counter this run by Hopkins. 3 unanswered by the Blue Jays to get them back within 3.
They've got Kraus on Carlini here. Look to them try to go at this matchup. You see it behind. A 2-man game between Lukovic and Kraus.
Lukovic circles around the crease. Great defense in front by the freshman Jack Rapine.
Good job by Carlini trying to deny Kraus, but if I'm Kraus, I want to get the ball here. You can see the coaching staff yelling at him to try to change the angle of this pick.
Lukovic.
Give it to him.
Looking for an open man, instead the shot off the back end of the cage.
And you can see wisely Carlini changes the matchup there. Well executed by Hopkins.
Williams, as they reset to Emery. The first noticeable strong defensive effort here by Hopkins defense, slowing down Virginia's high-powered offense.
Good defense there by Carlini.
Aiken Slips momentarily, Fields with a great defensive effort. As Emery let loose, bounce shot, finds the cage and in for the goal. That ends the run by Hopkins as Virginia now makes it an 11-7 advantage.
Emery gets on the board for the first time this season. You can see the lengthy possession. Dodges down the alley here. It looks like it just sneaks by Turnbull. He just kept attacking and re-attacking and re-attacking. You saw Tinney there maybe a little bit too aggressive with his on-ball defense. Emery was able to get his hands free. How
demoralizing is that if you're Hopkins defense slowing down Virginia for that long, and Emery still is able to come up with a goal?
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. And especially since you had, you know, kind of this a three goal kind of run going. You'd love to get a stop there, keep the momentum rolling.
And a flag now. Here with 1:05 left in this second quarter.
Third face-off violation, illegal procedure on Arn. Gonna have the in-home serve that number 2 Arn. Technical foul, 30 seconds.
So Kraus will serve the foul. Lars Tiffany arguing his case to the official.
Yeah, 3 violations and a half generates a 30-second penalty.
Luke Brugel, the freshman, in at the X for Virginia, sharing the duties with Murphy against Medeiros.
Looks like they called him for a hold there, the third violation, as we alluded to, and Kraus will serve the penalty.
Well, Hopkins has already converted once on the extra man opportunity, looking to do it again. And they do in the form of John Crawley. His 12th of the season, and Hopkins gets a much-needed goal with under a minute to go in this first half, down 11-8 to Virginia.
Yeah, Virginia elects to shut off Stanwyck with a short stick. You can see that to the right of your screen, and Hopkins makes them pay, playing 5-on-4. Crawley takes that extra step upfield to generate a little bit more of a shooting angle so he can go near pipe and far pipe. He's able to beat Thompson. It's a little bit of pick your poison with Hopkins on their extra man unit. Do you shut Stanwyck? Do you not shut Stanwyck? You know, Hopkins is prepared for both strategies, as evidenced there.
And they go back to Moreland as their face-off specialist. Came into this game 8 of 12 off his first game of the year against Syracuse.
Virginia's got to be really careful not to have a violation there. Good discipline.
Conrad picks up the loose ground ball. Great aggressive defense.
He's going
by the senior long stick midi and Austin Spencer. And Lars Tiffany in Virginia wants to take a timeout with 39 seconds left to go.
He had Connors there for a step down. You rarely see them put on the brakes.
Well, Tuesday on ESPN, we'll have the NIT semifinals coming your way. Once again from Madison Square Garden, as Cal State Bakersfield, the first 8 seed to make it to the semifinals, as they will battle Georgia Tech coming up at 7 o'clock. Then it's the Horned Frogs taking on Johnny Dawkins and UCF for a spot in the championship game Thursday night, with both games streaming live on the ESPN app and on Watch ESPN. If you're Johns Hopkins, you've been able to weather the storm against a high-powered Virginia offense after a 5-0 run in this quarter, answered back with a 3-0 run. How do you play out this final minute?
I expect them to go zone here. They haven't been able to really stop Virginia in the man-to-man too frequently. That last possession aside, which actually did end up in a goal. But I expect them to try to kind of bleed out this last 40 seconds and go down, you know, with this 3-goal deficit. But if the up 5 and then the 3-goal the other way, that's been the tail of the tape in terms of Virginia all season. It's a game of runs, so you just got to keep your composure, because when Virginia goes on a run, you just got to answer right back.
This is an offense for Johns Hopkins averaging 36 shots per game over this 3-game losing streak. For Virginia, 5-3 on the season, had the impressive wins coming into this year. Took Cornell to overtime. Granted, Cornell's only 1 win on the year. They battled hard start against Notre Dame. What do you make of Virginia's prospects going into an ACC that by many is considered to be wide open?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at the preseason rankings, and it's not like everybody was picking them to crush it. And obviously, implementing this new system takes some time. But this is still Virginia, and there's a lot of talent here. It's really going to be a matter of their goalie play. If they can get some stops in cage, you'd like to think that they've got something cooking at the faceoff X, and they've got enough talent offensively that they can put up numbers. And the season to date would dictate that, or would prove that. So if they can get solid there, and you'd like to think under Coach Kip Turner, a former national champion and MLL All-Star and champion, that he's going to be able to clean up that aspect of their game.
So here we are, the final 30 seconds of this first half. Virginia with a 3-goal edge on Johns Hopkins. Both these teams coming off overtime losses a week ago. Virginia to Notre Dame, Hopkins to Syracuse. As Conrad looks to fire, gives it off to Williams. Strong defensive effort. Fields able to get a stick on it as it ricochets out of bounds. Will stay with Virginia for the final 5 seconds. Vukovic, the setup pass in front. And that is how the first half comes to a close. Hopkins with that solid defensive effort. And yet it's Virginia with an 11-8 advantage over the 17th ranked team in the country. Coming up in the halftime break, we'll speak with Johns Hopkins Athletic Director Alana Shanahan as Virginia at Homewood Field got the 3-goal advantage, 11-8 on Hopkins. Started off the year 4-0, dropping 3 straight, looking to reverse that trend here this afternoon on a beautiful, I mean beautiful, 73-degree day here in the Charm City. I brought so much luggage that I thought it was going to be a wintry day. That has not been the case whatsoever. As the opening faceoff begin this third quarter, right into the pocket of Nick Fields, and Hopkins able to start on an offensive possession to begin this third quarter.
Encouraging sign for Hopkins. Moreland, another strong effort there, facing off. He was really the key last week against Syracuse. Great to see him back and healthy. He's been a difference maker again today.
Tinney was effective in that first half despite his struggles coming into this game at Homewood Field. Came in with 1 point or less in 5 home games this year. Has reversed that trend this afternoon, so is Crowley as well. Radzewicz trying to angle himself to the cage. Marked by Conrad. As Marr looking for a hat trick. Jack Stanwyck marked by Tanner Scales, who just pushes aside Crawley behind cage. Goes one-on-one with Conrad. Nice shot attempt. That'll stay with...
Yeah, Crowley's got to get that on cage. Great job getting in front of the goal. Good scoring opportunity. He's got to bury that. That's what we talked about with Hopkins and their shooting woes. That's one that you've got to bury.
Mentioned the struggles of Hopkins, none more so evident than Shaq Stanwyck's numbers. His first 3 games of the year, 16 points. The last 3 coming in, just 4. Does have an assist on the day and a save by Thompson. And the clear up coming from Virginia.
Look for Conrad to do the old punt return clear here. There he goes.
Tiffany called him a one-man punt return in our conversations this week as Williams to the point. Open man, great look underneath shot that does not go for French. But great vision by Williams coming in as the assist leader on this Virginia team with 20.
Yeah, French drops his hands, fades away from the goal there. Get to the middle of the field, step up field, create that better shooting angle.
Krause, the freshman, the quarterback of this offense out of Duquesne in Connecticut. 2 goals to his credit.
Good poke.
Aiken loses the ground ball, now a chance at the midfield line. And the long pole, Jared Connors gives it right back off to Aiken. Lukovic. Angle backwards, off the mark. The senior who extended his point streak to 38 straight, 10th longest in the nation. Stanwyck has a 41-game point streak. Johns Hopkins. Here's Fish. Draws the short stick by Tinney. Great pressure defense that'll stay with Virginia.
Yeah, Fish got away with a ward there. Tinney was able to get in there and ride his hips. Saw Fish push him off. Ooh, a little high there.
Fish again, aggressive with Tinney. Gets the bounce shot as Virginia striking first in this third quarter to lead at 12-8.
Here's Fish, he goes down the alley. You can see Tinney gets him riding a little bit high, and when you ride up, you typically lose your leverage. So when you're high like that, an offensive player is able to duck underneath that hold and give Fish a ton of credit. He goes back to his left hand, mimicking that S dodge we spoke of earlier. By getting back to the middle of the field and going to your left hand, increases his angle significantly and is able to reach around turnball there.
Using all 6'3" of them, the senior out of Grayslake, Illinois, giving Virginia a 4-goal cushion. And the face-off violation gives it back to Moreland. Virginia with 12 goals, 9 different goal scorers for a team ranking 3rd in the nation. Concannon to the point, marked by Will McNamara. Coming off an ACL injury a year ago, part of this midfield unit that goes 9 deep for Dave Petromalo. As Marr, the lefty, looking to fire a bullet across just the outreach of Thompson.
He can let it fly, huh, Brick?
You've seen some speed on that shot by the sophomore of Clifton Park, New York.
This kid can sling it too.
Concannon thought about it, loses his defender. Griffin Thompson in the cage, making his 2nd career start for Lars Tiffany in Virginia, has 9 saves to this point. Frazier going high and just missing. From your perspective, Hopkins certainly getting some opportunities.
Exactly, he beat me to the punch. I mean, 3 gunslingers there, but none are on cage and none are challenging the freshman.
Scales challenging against Stanwyck. Just 1 assist for the junior.
Got away with a back check there.
Hopkins trying to break through the zone defense by Virginia. Concannon guarded heavily by McNamara. Eisler splits the defense.
Long possession here. Gotta imagine defensively, Virginia's wearing down a touch.
Marr with 2 goals in that first half for Hopkins. Tries to get a lane, loses possession. Great shot on the run by Frazier. Griffin again strong in the cage for the Cavaliers, and will stay with Stanwyck out of the reset.
Yeah, love what Hopkins is doing here. They're substituting those midfielders out. Great decision by Coach Benson, getting fresh legs out there. So you'll see Frazier, he runs off. They got Radzewicz waiting. So now you got Tinney, Crowley, and Radzewicz using their depth to their advantage.
Radzewicz number 2 to the point. Hopkins offense 0 for 6 in this 3rd quarter. We saw a trend last week against Syracuse where the Blue Jays offense went 0 for 20 on goal. Tinney with the spin move through the double team.
Yeah, that's definitely a push. Virginia's lucky that that wasn't a flag. That looked like it hit Tinney in the back of the helmet.
Marr looking to feed. Loses the handle of it. And now a race for it with Ambrosino. Won by Stanwyck on the ground ball. The junior muscles his way just out of the reach of Thompson. And a timeout taken by Lars Tiffany and Virginia here with 8:31 in this third quarter. Shaq's brother, Steele Stanwyck, who's an assistant on the Hopkins women's lacrosse team, most notably known for his success at Virginia. They're going to say he stepped into the crease, and it'll be given back to Virginia, winning a national championship and a Tewaaraton as well, did Shaq Stanwyck, or Steele Stanwyck, I should say.
Conrad just ran through a broken shaft. Corey Smith trying to ride him. Conrad, the punt return just ran through, and Smith's shaft broke on that.
Lukovic holding possession near side of the field. The senior spent the first 3 years as the quarterback of this offense. A first half where these two teams combined for 19 goals, playing to Virginia style. Here we're seeing Hopkins style in full effect, just 1 goal combined. That was by A.J. Fish early on in this third quarter to build it up to a 4-goal lead.
A couple long possessions was certainly plays to Hopkins' favor. The only downside is when you're down 4, or they were down 3 at that time, you obviously need to crawl back to the game.
Lukovic looking for the cutter. Off the shin, it looked like, of Turnbaugh. As Kraus with the quick reset for Virginia. Ooh, Conrad just blows through his defender. And it'll be a turnover that'll give it back to Hopkins. Conrad, that Renaissance man, he's got the green light every time by Lars Tiffany. Now the clear here for Hopkins.
Eisler's got Dismute down there in the corner.
Draws a long stick of Michael Howard, the senior D-Midi.
Taking it the hard way there. It's hard, but typically when Virginia's riding, you just got to look up, and you've got a teammate open deep in front of you. It's just with the constant pressure, it's hard to have the composure to actually execute that play. That's the beauty of the ride that they execute.
When you're down by 4, as Hopkins is now, who has to be the option in this possession?
Well, everything's situational here. I think in this instance, you'd like Frazier on Conrad. They elect to go with Ballas, getting one of his few runs of today.
The junior, his shot deflected, and the ground ball picked up by Scales. Virginia leading the nation in ground balls at 49. That leads to the transition game. Kraus on the run, fires and scores, and the freshman has a hat trick, and Virginia is up 13-8.
You know, I was gonna just admonish Kraus because he had Conrad coming in as a trailer, but the confidence that this kid is playing with is absolutely remarkable. You see this in transition, no fear, just going right at his defenseman. The top side step to get to the middle of the field, and he has been doing this absolutely all season long. You know, you see the freshman, a product at a New Canaan High School and the Eclipse Lacrosse Club, you know, playing in those pressure situations prepared him for the big stage, and he has absolutely shined the brightest game in and game out.
So much success for Kraus, set a school record at Tufts post-grad year for him with 57 goals, won a state championship with New Canaan in his senior year where he put up 108 points. He's got a hat trick today, 8 goals over his last 2 games. And Virginia's up by 5.
I mean, at what point does he start drawing the #1 defenseman? I mean, that's what you got to ask yourself as a defensive coordinator, which is just a remarkable given the fact that who he's paired up with, you know, with Williams, you know, in terms of his running mate. But that's what you got to ask yourself.
I asked Lars Tiffany this week, what can he work on? And he paused for a moment and said, well, his right-handed shot.
Scored today, right-handed. So putting in the work there, clearly. As Stanwyck has Scales hung up here.
for the cutter is Stanwyck. Draws the long pole of Scales. Hopkins' last goal coming late in that second quarter, looking to answer. Radzowitz. They have hit the top of the crossbar.
Yeah. Radzowitz is getting a lot more burn today. You feel like he's somebody that can win a one-on-one matchup, which at times Hopkins struggles with offensively. Here's the other person that I think can win a lot of one-on-one matchups is number 3, Williams. They elect not to go with him.
The question Dave Petromalo was posed this week is about Stanwyck. He said his key has to be his awareness to keep it or to pull it out. He's got 2 assists. Here's Crawley. That shot way off the mark. 0 for 11 in this quarter is Hopkins. We're starting to see that same drought that they had last week against Syracuse. Right into the cage. And Thompson, the easy save on the clear here for Virginia.
A tough spacing there. Virginia's got numbers if they want this.
Fields drawing the assignment against Williams.
Oh, they had him. They had Connors there. Hopkins' last possession didn't love their spacing. They liked that one-on-one matchup.
Krause.
Yeah, he slipped.
Losing the handle of it, that gives possession back to Hopkins here with 3:40 in this third quarter.
But I liked Williams' matchup there, and they brought another player for a 2-man game. Just let him go one-on-one. If you do that, he can win that one-on-one matchup and see what he can generate off of that.
Concannon able to break through the ride of Virginia. A Virginia team that averages coming in over 16 turnovers a game.
And they just don't care. They don't even talk about turnovers, right? I mean, they just see that as an opportunity to ride.
Yeah, Lars Tiffany said it's taboo to talk about turnovers. He says that brings negative thought into his players, and that's the last thing you want. But defensively, they've been able to shut down, as Virginia, the top weapons here for this attack unit for Hopkins. Concannon loading up and firing a bullet to the back of the cage.
Concannon off of that left wing, so dangerous. They see this little top step, whoop, and then lets it fly. This kid can absolutely sling it. There's something about just his dangle with that left hand. Like him initiating from that spot as opposed to the high wing. I think he can just be a little bit more creative and get off a better angled shot off of that step. He's gonna get a step on any short stick that's covering him. So prefer to see that initiation point. Let's see if Hopkins goes back to that again as this game progresses.
Face-offs becoming imperative for Hopkins. 39% they've won at the X over the last 3 games entering this matchup. Moreland losing the handle, the ground ball taken by Conrad, part of this hybrid speed by the sophomore.
I don't know what Connors did, but they've had him open maybe 4 or 5 times in transition, and he gets looked off every time.
Krause. Trail check by Rapine, losing the handle. Will stay with Virginia. Dave Petromalo and the Hopkins bench arguing.
Yeah, so there's a fine line there. They're calling that a shot. So since it was a shot, Virginia was closest to the ball when it went out. Hopkins is claiming, it's a turnover because it was a stick check, and Rasheed Wallace is saying ball don't lie.
A Rasheed Wallace reference. Did not think I would have you bring up a Rasheed Wallace reference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Hopkins has been able to force back-to-back turnovers against Virginia. The question is, can the offense keep up? Frazier, as a flag is thrown, Lars Tiffany arguing his case. That's a heads-up move by the junior.
Who was the guy who pushed him out? He didn't have a number. He didn't have a I'll take it. 32. 32 orange. Push with possession 30.
So Dox Aiken will be taking the 30-second penalty as we take a look.
Yeah, you see Frazier as he's tiptoeing the line. Aiken come in. Obviously right in front of Virginia's bench. They're going to feel otherwise. It looked like he did get him in the back, though.
Hopkins 2 for 2 on the man up today. If you can score here after forcing 2 turnovers. Behind the back, that shot off the mark. Will stay with Hopkins off the effort by Radzowitz.
Blow the whistle.
But how much of a confidence boost can Hopkins take? Just like that, Radzowitz, with 6 seconds left on the man-up opportunity, converts. Hopkins 3 for 3 on the EMO. More importantly, they're down by 3.
Radzowitz is second today. Clearly, he has earned the confidence of the coaching staff. Great pump fake there by Stanwyck to get the defense spinning, and Radzowitz firmly plants himself right in the soft spot of the zone there. Stanwyck, you can't let him have his hands free. He's going to make you pay.
Radzowitz, whose sister Alexa is a defender on the Syracuse women's lacrosse team. As the senior with his second tally, as you mentioned, both of his parents Division I athletes. And Hopkins back within 3, 13-10. But I mentioned that before, the confidence level for Hopkins. Defensively, you force 2 turnovers. Offensively, you get 2 strikes.
Tough spot for Alexa last week, huh?
Yeah.
The men's team going against your brother.
Firing up and loading is Marr. The sophomore with the hat trick, and all of a sudden, Ryan, we've got a game 13-11.
Here we go. This is what Virginia does. They go up big, but then they let you come back in. You just got to keep firing, keep your composure. You're going to get opportunities. You just can't let their style wear you down. Again, it's all keyed off of the face-off win. Hopkins is able to come up with a 50-50 ground ball here. Marr aggressively steps in, and he has been feeling it all day, his 3rd of the game. 2
goals in 9 seconds for Hopkins. Dave Pietramala was unsure of his team's success moving forward after the loss to Princeton, saying that the confidence shook with this team. And one may have thought when it was a 10-4 game in favor of Virginia, we're going to go down that same road. But the question has become, this Hopkins team certainly can deal with the pressure and battling with the success of Virginia to get it down by 2. A face-off violation gives the Cavs now possession and a 2-goal advantage here with the final minute coming up in this 3rd quarter.
Look for Connors to set an on-ball pick here to try to change the matchup. Right there.
Kraus, checked by Rapine. Great matchup between arguably the best defender alongside with Fields on this defensive unit for Hopkins.
Yeah, and good job there by Kraus, kind of pressure testing the defense, seeing if he has anything, but not forcing anything. The possession before, he was dodging 5-on-6. He jams one in. There's a turnover, or they called it a shot, rather.
Kraus angle to the cage. Beautiful save by Turnbaugh. Dave Pietramala made the switch in the first half from Logan to Turnbaugh to try to get some kind of spark. And Turnbaugh with his 4th save providing that.
Watch out, Tinney's coming.
5 seconds left. Here's Tinney. Finds an open man. Shot off the mark. As Robert Kuhn nearly had that one to go. That ends a fast-paced, back-and-forth battle at the end of this 3rd quarter. Hopkins down by 2 as we move to the 4th. Off the loss a week ago in overtime to Notre Dame. Virginia 5-3 on the season. Looking for a big victory against the Johns Hopkins team trying to snap a 3-game losing streak before heading into conference play. And the face-off won by Medeiros to begin this 4th quarter. Has a lane, charging toward the cage. Medeiros with a quick strike. And Johns Hopkins back within 1.
Medeiros gives you a little bit more athleticism at the face-off X. You see him on this loose ball, pick it up, and nobody stops the ball for Virginia. He runs through a couple stick checks, igniting Hopkins on this fast break, cutting it to 1. This is the closest it's been since the start of the game, and 1-0.
It was at one point also a 5-4 game, and Virginia, every time Hopkins has been able to get it closer, they've been able to go on some kind of offensive surge. Will that be the case here after Hopkins just taking 10 seconds off the Medeiros face-off win and the quick strike on Cage to get it to a 13-12 advantage for Virginia.
Uh-oh.
Face-off won by Virginia. Conrad in front. Williams. And it will stay with Virginia.
Virginia had a great opportunity there to strike right back.
How quickly does this up-tempo offense now for Virginia work on this offensive possession?
I'll tell you how quickly. It's a shot in about 2 seconds.
I had it at 1.5.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised Conrad didn't just let that fly from the outside. Had a great step-down opportunity.
The freshman, Michael Kraus, make that now 4 goals for the freshman. And Virginia responds with a 14-12 advantage.
Nice shot, Kraus!
He is just feasting on defensemen nationwide. You see here the change of direction. He's able to get topside. The bench has become accustomed to doing that after this kid has the ball.
Kraus, who had the career-high 5 goals last week against Notre Dame, has now 25 on the season. That has been a great theme in the sport of lacrosse this year, has been freshman sensations throughout. Sowers at Princeton, Mac O'Keefe at Penn State, and certainly Michael Kraus with the performance he's been able to put together as the face-off win taken by Bruegel. Going a little fancy behind the back to Hooper, with Kraus, the quarterback, setting up the offense for the Cavs.
Those face-off guys don't have the technique or wherewithal or green light to throw in an around-the-world pass on a 5-on-4 break. Virginia in their early offense here, you can see Medeiros and Murphy, or Bruegel for that matter. Medeiros looking at the bench saying, what should I do?
Here's Fish. Draws the slide by Hopkins. Kraus with that great vision. Takeaway, though, on the pick. Boone the other way. Hopkins looking for an answer, down by 2. Thomas Guida, number 27, coming in for a moment for Hopkins as they settle into their offense with Stanwyck. No goals for the junior, but a couple of key assists in this game.
Great interception there by Spencer, keying that transition. Hopkins elected, didn't love the matchups, didn't love the personnel. So they'll go back to the 6-on-6 here. Radzowitz is one of the guys they've looked to key in their offense.
Tinney gives it off, one-on-one. Radowitz drawing the short stick. Angled shot. Kyle Marr has had himself a game this afternoon. 14-13, Hopkins back within 1.
As deep as they go, Coach Petramala was looking for players to step up. Well, here's one. Radzowitz has made it happen all day, and Marr has regained his confidence. You can see the bench absolutely loving it, playing off of each other. But if you're a Hopkins fan, great to see him absolutely bring the heat today.
Marr with a career-high 4 goals. His father, Scott, the head coach over at Albany, part of that '87 national championship team. Here for Johns Hopkins, Dave Petramala, a member of that '87 national championship team, and a key face-off won by the Blue Jays.
He can bring it.
Kuhn with the bounce shot that just misses.
Good recognition there by Guida in transition. Kuhn had 2 against Syracuse last week, so he's fully capable.
A Hopkins team that saw their confidence get shattered earlier this season against Princeton. They've dropped 3 in a row and heading into a gauntlet of a schedule in the Big Ten would like nothing more than a big victory. Radowitz off the dodge. And the reset for Hopkins. Marr looking for number 5. Draws the slide from Virginia. Now just angles one that's a pipe shot.
Just feeling it, Brick. He's feeling it.
I'll tell you, him and Concannon, just get out of their way. Get out of their way.
I expect him to go back to Radzowitz here and look for a little pick for Marr coming off the crease.
Radzowitz charging, Thompson with a great save.
A big round ball there by Stanwyck.
A reset of the offense for Johns Hopkins.
Marr's calling for it.
He's looking for number 5. Ground ball. Open cage, and that one just nearly went missing to the left. You wanted a thriller, you got one. Stanwyck, open shot, Thompson again with the save. Smith had an angle on it. Now the great stick check. Ambrosino battling for the ground ball. Thompson's out of the cage. A mental mistake and now a whistle. That stops play, and Dave Petromalo wants to take a timeout.
Catch your breath. That second yard sale by Ambrosino. Hopkins, how close can you come on one possession? They'll get organized, down by 1. I think you were able to generate a ton of quality shots in those last couple possessions. You know, Thompson came up with some saves. It's keeping the pressure on, quality shots, and it's all about attacking the right matchups. And you know, this quarter in particular, it's been number 2 Radzowitz and number 13 Marr. Both have short stick matchups. I expect them to go right back to Radzowitz.
And we make the job about Griffin Thompson. Took over the job from Will Rowley midway through that Cornell game, came off the bench. Matt Barrett, thought to be the starting goalie, was dismissed from the team, and a shot right to Thompson. Momentarily couldn't find it, right in front, makes the stop, his 16th save. And that was a concern for Lars Tiffany, goaltending coming into this matchup, but Griffin has done a stellar job in between the pipes here this afternoon. This was one area in the fourth quarter last week, however, that made you scratch your head if you were Lars Tiffany. Open cage now is crawling. Numbers the other way for Hopkins. And having a goal in goal is Ambrosino until Griffin Thompson able to get back into the crease.
Thompson a little too ambitious there. There was a couple opportunities for him just to throw to a teammate and let them leg it out. They dodge a bullet though. Hopkins unable to capitalize on the momentary empty net.
Smith behind cage, guarded by Conrad. Radzowitz, 2 goals, draws the slide, leaves Marr open for number 5 for the sophomore, and we are tied up at 14. Are you kidding me, Ryan Boyle?
The kid is feeling it. As we said earlier, shoot till you get hot, and when you get hot, keep shooting. Watch Marr, he drops his hands, severe angle here, and when he goes down, Thompson goes down with him, and that's all the space Marr needs. Notice there, when Marr drops his hands, Thompson matches that, and Marr just absolutely slings it low to high, yanks it back upstairs. He's got 5.
A career high for the sophomore, first tie in this game. Moreland wins a key faceoff, and Hopkins offense brought back to life after they were down 10-4 in that second quarter. And more importantly, they've been able to somehow contain this high-powered, up-tempo offense of Virginia.
Yeah, Mar feasting on the short stick matchup. Virginia double pulls, and so by having a short stick down low, they have to pick somebody. And so they've elected to go with Mar, who's done most of his damage off ball. But this is where sometimes the unconventional approach can work against you a little bit, especially with the hot hand Mar. Maybe put a pull on him and short stick somebody else.
Do you go with Mar on this possession if you're Hopkins, or do you look for another option?
You look for another option. Most of Mar's damage has been off ball. So let somebody else initiate and then try to get him free with his hands loose.
Eisler, the handoff to Stanwyck on the right wing. Hopkins has never led in this game. Concannon.
Gotta watch him with his left hand.
Down the alley, has to give it back off to Smith behind cage.
You see McNamara off ball has totally learned his lesson. He is staying ultra tight to Mar.
Concannon on the roll dodge, has to give it back out. Patience, Frazier letting one fly. Hopkins offensively averaging 11 goals on the season. They've shattered that here this afternoon, thanks in large part to the 5 goals by Kyle Marr, the sophomore attackman for the Blue Jays. Stanwyck loses the handle. The stick check there by Scales. And a flag is thrown towards the midfield line. That'll go against Hopkins to put Virginia in the man up.
87 white, hold, 30 seconds. 87 white, hold, 30 seconds.
The hold against Concannon, and Virginia for the first time today, Ryan, will be an extra man up.
Yeah, just a lack of discipline there by Concannon. He's trying to run off to get to the substitution box. Young players out there, rarely does a one-handed wrap or a one-handed hold lead to anything successful in the ride. More often than not, it leads to exactly that.
Virginia, in their last 4 games, Ryan, 11 man-up goals. They rank 4th in the nation at over 55%. A challenge here for this Hopkins defense. 5 seconds left on the man up, and another flag, and Virginia's going to stay on the man up. Williams, shot that was deflected. Owen Colwell, number 97 for Hopkins, called for the penalty.
The first Hopkins penalty got released, so that's still 6 on 5.
So a slashing call that'll put Virginia up a man for 1 minute. This could be the turning point of this game, tied up at 14 apiece. Vukovic, as Aiken works it to the far side. Virginia's offense has been held momentarily in check in the second half. Looking to break through. Krause lost the handle on the pass. Fields there for the key ground ball, and a push that's going to go against Krause and Virginia, and we're going to be 5 on 5. Nick Fields, who's the lone returning defender for this unit for Hopkins, coming up with a critical play.
Orange number 2, push, 30 seconds. Orange number 2, push, 30 seconds.
Really strong execution there by Hopkins with their man-down defense as we take another look at this push from behind. But Hopkins did 2 things well. Number 1, on ball, they applied pressure, got into the Virginia offensive players' hands, making it difficult to transfer the ball. And number 2, off ball with their rotations. Really sound, stay tight, eliminated any skip passes.
So we're going to be even for about 25 seconds. 5 on 5, and if you're Hopkins at this point, what's got to be the key?
Yeah, so what you're going to do here is you're going to hold. You're going to have a quick little 8-second or so man advantage. What they've got to be really wary of is not making an error in those 8 seconds, or at the end of those 8 seconds, because then Virginia can have transition with McNamara coming out of the box. They've got some time to play with.
Marr firing one over the crossbar. Quick reset by Stanwyck as we're all even 6 on 6. Wilkins just knew coming in, leading this team in goals.
Really quiet.
While Marr has taken over that top spot with his 5-goal performance this afternoon.
Tenney with another little hidden ball trick. This time he gives it to Smith. Virginia is prepared for it.
I think every team in the nation is prepared for it.
Right, fool me once.
Radzowitz. Heavily marked by Connors. As we're at the final 5 minutes of this game, Hopkins and Virginia tied up at 14 apiece. Hopkins looking to snap a 3-game losing streak as Tenney sees a lead, and for the first time today, Hopkins has taken the lead on the goal by the junior Joel Tenney.
Hopkins has been relentless in their pursuit of Virginia, and it finally pays off. Really smart X's and O's here and sound execution. You've got Tenney, strong left hand coming over the top, and Marr setting a pick. What's called a big little, one short stick, one long pole. Excellent X's and O's from a schematic standpoint, even better execution. You saw Virginia get a little confused there defensively with that on-ball pick.
Joel Tenney, the Canadian sharpshooter, with the hat trick. Make that now 33 career goals in 20 games for Tenney. And Bobby Benson, the offensive coordinator, has put together a remarkable game plan, especially in the second half, to give Hopkins their first lead. The face-off win by Moreland. Turnover, we've got a flag at the midline. And it's going to go against Virginia. Lars Tiffany arguing his point.
36, all sides, 30 seconds.
So Williams was offsides, and that's going to put Hopkins in the man-up situation.
By my count, this is the 3rd penalty that a Virginia attackman has had. Williams this offside, and then Krause with the 2. You love the energy, you love the effort, but you can't impact the game defensively with these penalties.
Hopkins, who was 3 for 3 on the man-up situation, a chance to get a crucial insurance goal. Marr with his career-high 5 goals. Stanwyck behind Cage. Ooh! Shot there by Crawley. Ground ball, a crucial one picked up by Marr, and a reset offensively for the Blue Jays.
Virginia back to even strength. So Hopkins counters with substitutes. Tenney comes back in the game, and Smith as well.
Tenney, one-on-one with Jama. Marr thought about it, went high against Thompson. Could have been number 6 for him.
That soft serve ice cream truck seen a lot of action today.
Approaching the final 3:15 of this game. Crawley, marked by Conrad. Hopkins has been beneficial for the play in the attack unit by Kyle Marr, as well as that first midfield line highlighted by the hat trick by Joel Tinney.
That's a great slip pick there by Smith in that two-man game.
Tinney draws the long ball. They work it on the right wing. Marr, his 6th goal of the day. And Johns Hopkins with a 2-goal advantage at 16-14 as Hopkins has scored now the last 4 goals here this afternoon.
Marr with the sock trick, I believe is what they call it, showing his repertoire. This time, instead of dropping his hands, he goes to that 3-quarter release. High to low, changes planes. He certainly's got Thompson's number today.
This was a Johns Hopkins team that at one point was ranked 3rd in the country, and I posed the question earlier to you, what would we have to see from this Hopkins team from a confidence standpoint moving forward into the Big Ten? Kyle Marr might be that answer.
Well, this is in one sense just what the doctor ordered, a game that's fast-paced, going to generate a lot of shots. But to their credit, they're down 10-4 at one point. That was when they could have kind of gone it in the shell and packed it in. They the exact opposite. They keep battling back, and now they got a 2-goal lead with under 3 to go.
Connors trying to get the ground ball, and a battle for it on the far side of the field. A great play as Kuhn, the long stick, holds onto it. Numbers, bounce shot that just misses to the right by Medeiros. They hold the flag with 2:30 left to play. This was a game in which Virginia had a 5-goal advantage with just over 5 minutes go in the 3rd quarter. And look at the difference by Hopkins here in this 4th quarter. 17-2, outshooting this Virginia offense.
Yeah, a little bit of confusion here. There was a flag down. It seemed as though it just slipped out of the referee's pocket, so they're waving off the flag.
A Hopkins team that has put up 60 shots here today. Their normal high was 42 coming into this one. And what it has resulted in is a 2-goal advantage as Lars Tiffany takes a timeout. What a turnaround for Johns Hopkins. They're up by 2.
Coach Petromala was looking for some alpha males to step up today, and Marr has answered the call, shooting in a variety of manners and different positions. You can see him low to high to low in front of the cage. This spot right here on the low left wing is where he's made the most of his damage felt. You see him go low to high. Thompson expects that. Boom. Now he changes the plan, goes high to low, that 3-quarter release. He has been absolutely lethal today.
6 goals on 13 shots for the sophomore. Dave Petromala in our conversations this week made a point of saying, if you're going to beat Virginia, it starts at the X. 70% of their offense comes in transition in about 12 to 15 seconds. But a key stat that he's certainly going to love is the fact that Virginia, #1 in ground balls at 49 a game. Today, they've only been held to 27. That's been a huge difference for Hopkins' success.
So shifting gears here now to coming out of this timeout. The question is, does Virginia double team right off the bat? Looks like they will. They're going to start the ball with Tinney, arguably the most athletic player, see if he can run out. And then Virginia has put back in Will Raleigh, a little bit more athletic than Thompson to cover off ball. So look for Virginia double team here on ball, try to generate a turnover so they can go from defense to offense.
It'll be Tinney out of the restart for Hopkins.
Get on your horse.
Defended there by Ambrosino. Unsettled play. Radzowitz, open cage, and he converts the hat trick and a 3-goal lead for Hopkins.
And the age-old question, do you shoot on an empty net? Radzowitz elects to take the opportunity to do so. Good discipline, taking that extra step to make sure of it. So often you see players be undisciplined, but you'd maybe like to see Hopkins run a little bit more time off the clock. 3 goals in 2 minutes and 15 seconds is not that tall of a task for Virginia.
It's been a question that's been asked all season long, especially in the big picture in the sport of lacrosse. Which conference is better, the ACC or the Big Ten? This could be a litmus test to answering that question weeks from now. Hopkins wins the face-off. They've had 2 goals now in 41 seconds.
It's not over yet.
And this high-powered offense has to come back for Virginia in a big way.
He's going.
Conrad slips, somehow gets it into the stick of Williams, who converts past Turnbaugh, and Virginia answering the run by Hopkins, down by 2.
This is exactly why you might have liked to see Radzowitz run some more clock. Virginia with the ball. Conrad loses his feet, slips it, kind of a crazy play. Somehow the ball ends up with Williams, quick little inside roll, and he finishes, and now we're right back to the face-off. Virginia looking to play make it, take it lacrosse.
So a 17-15 advantage for Johns Hopkins on a wild Saturday in lacrosse. We have seen Maryland, that answer about the Big Ten versus the ACC, crush the defending champs in North Carolina, a rematch of last year's national championship game. Rutgers losing today to Delaware, the #1 team in the country.
Big ground ball here. A lot of bodies on the ground. Williams comes up with it. He's going, and Virginia's got numbers.
Down by 2 are the Cavaliers, looking for a quick strike and a turnover. Fields had it momentarily, the trail check. Slipping is Krause. And now a crucial ground ball, Williams. And there's Fields, and a back and forth battle. What a turn of events for Virginia. Numbers the other way. Conrad fires and goes top shelf. And it's a 1-goal game. Ryan Conrad, there's a reason why he's got the green light by Lars Tiffany.
Virginia lives in the chaos. Off of the ground ball, you could see Conrad step into this and just let the baby fly. It brings them back to 1, and on top of that, to make matters worse, Hopkins gets called for a penalty as well. So this is going to be a man-down face-off. So if Virginia's able to come up with this, they'll be up a man. Virginia has no timeouts, so in that big scramble, if you're wondering why Coach Tiffany didn't call timeout, he doesn't have one.
As it'll be Murphy at the X. Hopkins had 2 goals in 41 seconds, but wow, has the tide turned in 38 seconds with the 2 goals by Virginia. Crucial face-off, won by Hopkins. Medeiros.
He's not out yet.
Approaching the final minute.
Get the ball, get the ball.
And a man-up situation for Virginia with 45 seconds. Got a 13-second difference between the man-up situation and the game clock. Radzowitz with his 3 goals on the game. What a win at the face-off X. Medeiros, trail check from behind. Loose ground ball picked up. Numbers for Virginia. Looking to strike. Oh! Turnbaugh with the huge save. 30 seconds to go. An unbelievable finish we're expecting between these two. Austin Spencer, trail checked. Now pushed from behind.
They've got Krause. Or excuse me, they got...
Numbers the other way. Aiken to Williams, and Williams ties! Are you kidding me? Zed Williams, the senior, coming up with the game tire with 11 seconds to go.
Let's take another look at it. Hopkins is going to claim that's a push. The referees let them play on. And Williams off of that scrap. Virginia looks ahead, moves the ball ahead. Williams keeps his cool and is able to bury one. Hopkins is absolutely furious on the no call there at the midfield line.
How crucial is the play of Williams, the only player in the country to average 30 points and 30 ground balls on the season. And why not? 4 of the last 5 regular season games between these two have ended up in overtime. We still have 11 seconds to go. Medeiros and Murphy back to the face-off X. Down to 5 seconds. Conrad with a chance with 3 seconds to go. Loads up and fires. Beautiful save by Turnbull. Wow.
Turnbull with a huge save. Game-changing save. Game-saving save.
Catch your breath, folks. This has been a classic.
Conrad steps up, and Turnbull is all over it.
Virginia and Hopkins living up to the billing, tied up at 17, overtime in Charm City. Next.
Women's Basketball Championship Elite 8 begins tomorrow.
Both these teams in Virginia and Hopkins know what it takes to win in tight pressure situations, overtime affairs. For Virginia, this has been their theme all season long. 1-goal games, both teams coming off overtime losses a week ago. And for Virginia, their 3rd straight overtime session, playing for the Doyle Cup. These two teams who have met since 1904, the 91st meeting between these two teams. They played every year since 1948. Dave Petramala showing off that passion that we have seen game in and game out. From your perspective, what has to be the key in this overtime session for both teams?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it starts with the possession at the face-off X, and then, you know, if Hopkins is able to get the ball offensively, how do I get Mar free? And Tinney has been the most clutch guy. And then conversely, Virginia, you know, you've got Krause, the freshman, having a huge game, but Williams with the last 2, you know, you'd love to see your senior leader step up, but you know, the way this game's been going, it might just be one of those scrambly plays that kind of all of a sudden, boom, a goal.
Sudden victory, the first team that scores in overtime will win, as it'll be Murphy and Moreland at the face-off X. 5th time in the last 6 regular season meetings, these two teams have gone to overtime to decide a winner. A violation that gives Virginia the possession. And now it looks to be Moreland, who's been battling that knee injury in obvious pain as the training staff hurries to his side. Moreland, who last week made his season debut against Syracuse, but you can tell there, Ryan, he is in obvious pain, is the junior.
Yeah, you just absolutely hate to see this. You hope it's just something like a cramp and nothing more serious, but you know, he's such a warrior, he's such a battler. The referees are sending the players over the bench here. You just got to hope that he's okay.
Moreland, who was crucial to the success of the face-off X, not only today, but last week against Syracuse, as we take a look at it again, has been battling injury problems, and you can tell fell hard wearing that brace.
It looked like his knee almost buckled there. You know, circling back to the end of regulation, you know, 2 things that Hopkins is going to look back on, depending on this outcome, and have a little bit of what if is. Number 1 is, you know, if you're Radzowitz, do you run the clock out a little bit more there? And then the second thing is that loose ball push call that didn't get called. So this is what's so tough about these 1-goal games is, you know, kind of when you win, right, everything, you're happy, you're joyous. When you lose, you look at every single moment.
A momentarily good sign for Moreland, able to get up, tried to walk off on his own power, but you can tell that left knee with the brace on it clearly is still bothersome to him after that face-off battle there, with Murphy having to be held off, or carried off, I should say, by the help of the Hopkins training staff. And so Virginia is going to have possession with a chance to win it. Williams, who was effective with his back-to-back goals to tie this one up at 17. The question is then, if you're Virginia and Lars Tiffany, how patient are you, or do you attack as quick as possible?
Well, the defense is set up here, so you want to create the right matchup. You like this Conrad on Jones, that would be one. Kraus has been really effective today. You see them going into a two-man game here.
As Conrad on the dodge, gives it off to Williams. Right wing, losing the handle momentarily. DeMario regains his composure. Trail checked, and an offsides that'll give Hopkins possession.
Yeah, they got an over and back there.
Quick out of the restart. And Dave Petromalo wants to take a timeout. Set up the offense. Tied up at 17 in this sudden victory scenario. First team to score wins it.
I was a little surprised that Virginia didn't call timeout as they got closer and closer to midfield there.
Take a look at our game summary. Virginia started off that second quarter with a 5-0 run. Hopkins answered with a 5-0 run of their own in the fourth, with a Virginia team that has spread the wealth with 10 different goal scorers. But for Hopkins, especially in that fourth quarter, we saw the emergence once again of the sophomore Kyle Marr, and yet Zed Williams, with his 2 goals in the closing minutes, was able to tie this game up and force overtime. I mean, this is what it was built up to be, an ACC Big Ten clash, and we're getting there this afternoon.
Yeah, based off the recent history between these two teams and based off of their games this season, you know, kind of all the data was pointing towards a 1-goal game and a potential overtime game. So no surprise that this is exactly where we are.
Well, let's take a look at the fourth quarter in what happened where we got to this point. There was a key push as Radowitz would come up with the early strike. He has a hat trick in this game for Hopkins, but it was that push that decided the goal that led to Williams tying this one up.
These are the two moments that I kind of look back as being key, you know, decisions, if you will. One by Hopkins, Radowitz, run a little bit more clock off there. Understand there's an empty cage, but the clock is more valuable than one more goal. And then the second one is the decision of the officials not to call that loose ball push. You know, Spencer tried to sell it a little bit, but he actually didn't need to sell it. So I think that's maybe why it wasn't called, is Spencer was maybe exaggerating that a little bit when it was clearly a push from behind.
Hopkins started off this season 4-0. Impressive wins against Navy, Loyola, on the road against the defending champs in North Carolina. And then all of a sudden, 3 straight losses. Started with that blowout loss in Princeton, lost to Towson, and then falling last week in an overtime fair to Syracuse.
So let's look at who's out here personnel-wise. You got Crawley, Tinney, and Radowitz. Radowitz is on a short stick, and they've still kept that short stick on Marr. So fully expect them to try to. Here comes Tinney. They're trying to get the ball to Radowitz,
who's got the hat trick. They work it to the right wing to Marr. Radowitz to the point, marked by Connors. Radowitz, Tinney, they've got a hat trick each. Marr's got a career-high 6 goals. Crawley behind point. Angle to the cage. Open shot, and Hopkins does it. Shaq Stanwyck, the hero. And Johns Hopkins comes back to knock off Virginia.
Crawley's got the short stick matchup. Tough one here for Virginia. You gotta slide. Scales goes, and they have no second slide waiting back behind the cage. There is on the backside pipe is Stanwyck. Here you see the first slide. Where's the second? Connors is late, and Stanwyck makes Virginia pay.
How ironic is it that the man who has struggled the most during this 3-game losing streak, Shaq Stanwyck, for Johns Hopkins, gets the overtime winner, snaps that 3-game losing streak, and now Johns Hopkins off this overtime win over Virginia, a clean slate as they move in to Big Ten action with the victory.